night you're out at the old ball game.
8:17 a.m. Quad Cities News Talk 1420 WOC. Take me out to the ball game. Interesting choice of music there because that comes up in this book, Iowa Baseball Greats. 16 major leaguers who were in the game for life. The author of the book, Quad City Times sports writer, not the managing editor anymore, right, as of this week?
Exactly, yes.
Is that new for you?
I've been freed, yes.
Don Doxsie is with us. Dox, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by.
Good to see you.
Well, this book came out in September, but I figure, you know what, with baseball season underway here, they got the River, we got the Major League Baseball playing now. We got the River Bandits opening this weekend. It's a good time to talk about this. When you think about Iowa, like Iowa and Midwest baseball, I mean, in the 1920s, the Midwest was the place for baseball, right?
It really was, yeah. I mean, if they'd had an all-star game in the 1920s, it didn't start till 1933. If they had, there would have been a lot of years. There would have been 6 or 7 Iowans in the all-star game. I mean, there was a lot of them in Major League Baseball in the 1920s, and they were almost all from itty-bitty little towns too. I mean, they weren't from big cities, but yeah, it was really big about 100 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, was it like in Field of Dreams where people just went town to town looking for a job just to play on the baseball team? Was it that romantic?
I don't know if it was like that, but every little town had a team, and like one of the guys in the book, Hank Severide, played for. He's from Story City, north of Ames, there, and they would walk to the surrounding towns. They would walk over to Roland or Gilbert or whatever town to play a game against the neighboring town team. So baseball was just. I mean, it was a major preoccupation for people in the small towns.
And Iowa should be pretty proud of its baseball history. I mean, like you have here, 16 major leaguers, the title, who were in the game for life. I suppose you're referring to the fact that after they were done playing baseball, most of these people somehow stayed involved with baseball.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of them became managers, scouts. 2 of them wrote instructional books about baseball. So, yeah, almost all of the guys in the book stayed in baseball in some capacity after their playing careers were over.
There's a lot of names that we know in here. Bob Feller, of course. I've been to the Bob Feller Museum. I'm sure you've been there a time or two, right?
Yes, several
Rapid
times.
Robert, the heater from Van Meter.
Yeah.
But there's some other names in here that you sort of recognize, and I guess I didn't realize Cap Anson. I know the name. I just didn't realize he was from Iowa. And you said he's up near Marshalltown, right?
His father basically founded the town of Marshalltown. I mean, he was like the first non-Native American settler into that area. There's all sorts of things in Marshalltown. There's Anson Street, Anson School, Anson Park. They're not named after Cap Anson. They're named after Henry Anson, his father, who pretty much founded the town. So, yeah, and that Cap was born there and grew up in Iowa.
Now, we were playing Take Me Out to the Ball Game there coming into this break. Now, what's the story with Cap Anson and the song Take Me Out to the Ball Game?
Well, after Cap's playing career was over, he fell on some hard times financially, so he put together a vaudeville act and traveled around just doing all sorts of things, reciting poems and everything in a vaudeville act. And he had some guys from the East Coast who had written this song. The 2 guys hadn't even been to a ball game before. They somehow wrote a song about baseball and asked, can you use this in your vaudeville act some way? And so Cap started using it, and he actually began playing it when he came on stage, and when he left the stage, it was Take Me Out to the Ball Game. He helped popularize that song.
And now you can't go to a ballpark without hearing. You can't watch a broadcast or hear a broadcast without hearing that song.
Exactly. It's more or less the anthem of the sport now, and
wow.
Cap Anson helped make it that way.
Writing this book, I mean, like I said, there's some names that you may not recognize in here. You probably had to do a lot of traveling. I'm assuming you went to some pretty small towns in Iowa to do some research.
Yeah, a lot of public libraries. The people in Norway, Iowa were great. There's a little baseball museum there, and of course that's a baseball crazy town. 2 of the 16 players are from Norway. There's a little historical society right on the Jones-Dubuque County line in Cascade, Iowa. I went up there, and they opened up the doors to let me do research. So you mentioned the Bob Feller Museum, that places like that I got to, and a lot of public libraries, a lot of looking at microfilm and things like that. But
it's kind of neat, though. I mean, isn't that what, as a reporter and a sports writer, that's what you love going back and looking at the old
it
stuff,
is,
right?
because you'll be looking through stuff and you'll stumble across something that just you didn't expect to find, and some little nugget of information, and it's it's just great. That's the fun part of it.
I don't know how you do that because I do this all the time. I'll go over to the Rock Island Library and I'll go to look up something about John Looney, and I'll be looking through the microfilm, and by the time I'm done, I'll be looking at property deeds from 1840. Have nothing to do with what I started with. So I suppose a lot of your training has to be, here's how we keep ourselves organized and going in the direction we want to go.
It is. It's easy to get distracted because you find other interesting stuff, like you say, that has nothing to do with what you're actually looking for. But yeah, it does, and it's time consuming, but it's what I enjoy doing.
Were you able to pick out a favorite of these 16 baseball players from Iowa?
Well, Gene Baker, who's the one guy in the book from Davenport, is really a lot of the reason I did the book. I really actually thought about doing an entire book about Gene, and realized maybe I couldn't make a whole book out of that, but I really wanted to do something with him because he helped break down racial barriers in the sport. He was one of the first 2 black players to play for the Cubs. He was the first black minor league manager. And I got to know him late in his life, did some stories about him. And so I really wanted to include him. He's a lot of the reason I started digging into information about the other guys in the book, too.
Yeah, and he was somebody who probably should have been in the major leagues a lot earlier than he was.
Yes.
And it's hard. It's just, that's another thing with baseball that helped break down a lot of the racial barriers in this country. It's hard to believe that we actually at one point in this country were saying, you can't play in the major leagues, you're black. It's hard to believe that, isn't it?
Yeah, Baker had been a star player in the Navy at the end of World War II. He replaced Jackie Robinson as the shortstop of the Kansas City Monarchs. The Cubs signed him before the 1950 season. He was ready for the major leagues. They brought him up at the end of the 1954 season. He sat in the minor leagues for almost 5 years. Wow. Waiting for his chance. He was almost 30 years old when he finally got there.
Well, so that would be your guy if you looked at this book. So,
yeah, he's definitely my favorite there.
How long did this take you to write?
The actual writing part probably took me about a year. The research part I did in little bits and pieces for years before that. I think Gene Baker went into the Quad City Sports Hall of Fame in 1993, so I've bbeen writing about him since then, and had all sorts of. I got a chance to meet Feller too during his lifetime, and had collected stuff there. But when it came time to pull it all together, I probably did it in about a year.
Wow. Well, it's a very interesting read. I've been thumbing through and reading a lot of these stories, and it really does make you proud to be from Iowa when you read this book. It makes you proud to be from this area when you see we're really the ones that got baseball going. I mean, it was the Midwest and our area that really helped push baseball into what it is today.
Yeah. There's been 217 players from Iowa in the major leagues, and if you compare it to other states with a similar population like Mississippi, Arkansas, Utah, Kansas, none of them have that many. Iowa has many more than those states. So.
How would we get our hands on a copy of this book, Dox?
It's not in a lot of bookstores, but you can definitely get it online at McFarlandBooks.com or, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any of the big bookseller sites have it. So.
Definitely a great read if you're a baseball fan, sports fan, and any kind of sports fan. Iowa baseball greats, 16 major leaguers who were in the game for life. Don Doxsie, thank you so much, Dox. Good to see you.
All right, thanks for having me.
Busy this weekend? You got a lot of sports to cover this weekend?
I'll probably be out at the River Bandits opener, bundled up like everybody else.
That's right. Thanks, Dox. It is 8:26 a.m. Quad Cities here at WOC.